This is our online review class for public corporations and public officers. As a matter of pre-lecture notice, some of the discussions here may require you to refer to previous lectures on constitutional law, especially on matters involving civil service, on matters involving the qualifications and functions of certain public offices, the matter of suability, and other key concepts relevant to public corporations and public officers. As a matter of good practice, kindly pause this video if you feel that the discussion is not too specific, because this is a review lecture with the presumption that you know the details. This will only try to point you to certain directions, but reference must be made to the more elaborate text that you are using. No? So, public corporations and public officers is a significant portion of constitutional law review, because so many questions during the bar exams has been taken from this segment of the study. No? So, first, the definition. Public office is the right, authority, and the duty created and conferred by law, by which, for a given period, either fixed by law or enduring at the pleasure of the appointing power, an individual is invested with some portion of the sovereign functions of government to be exercised by him for the benefit of the public. Look at the definition. It tells us the nature and the characteristics of a public office. Public office refers to a right. When you have been elected, for example, by your voters, you have the right to be in office. You cannot be unseated because your right emanates from the people. You exercise authority because your function, be it appointed or elected, has certain legal um, powers granted to you that translate into service. Duty, because it's not a position that is given to you as a reward, but it is a position that you aspire for because you want to serve. It is created and conferred by law. All government offices are created by law, be it by statute or by the Constitution. You have a term and tenure. For elective officers, you have specific terms. For those in the civil service, the career or non-career service, or especially in the career service, your term or tenure is guaranteed for you. It extends up to your, possibly retirement, no, or removal for some other causes. It may also be for dependent on the pleasure of the appointing power. You are invested with some portion of the sovereign function. No, your function may be administrative, legislative, executive, or whatnot, but these powers are exercised by you as you exercise it for the state, for government. And it is exercised for the benefit of the public, because that often repeated statement that public office is a public trust. You serve the people when you are a public officer. Kaya nga ang tawag sa inyo, public servants. Okay. So, what are the requirements to be in a public office? You have the matter of eligibility and qualification. What is the distinction between eligibility and qualification? Though we sometimes interchange loosely eligibility with qualification, no? Like if you look at the definition of what eligibility there is, it is the state or quality of being legally fit or qualified to be chosen. It uses even the word qualified. So eligibility refers to that, list or enumeration of qualifications actually to be in office. No, so eligibility is you possessing all of these qualifications loosely, as we use the word qualification. No? Um, Qualifications strictly, if you look at it in this technical and more strict sense, refer to the act which a person before entering the performance of his duties is by law required to do, such as taking on often subscribing and um, filing of an official oath, and in some cases the giving of an official bond. So this is not the qualification that we loosely use, no term that we interchangeably use to mean eligibility. Here, qualification refers that that the condition precedent before you can assume office. For example, if you have been elected after proclamation, before you can take your seat in your office, before you can assume the position, you have to take oath of office, no? That take the necessary oath of office, for example. Um, so you have the formal qualifications, the general formal qualifications to office. Citizenship, for some offices, it may be natural born, some naturalized, or just, no distinction at all, no? Age, it varies from the position to another depending on what position you may want to serve. If you look at elective posts, the ages vary depending on the function that you desire. No, suffrage. Some positions, like elective positions, require you to be a voter at a certain municipality or place. No, um, residence requirement also is required for certain elective offices. Education, ability to read and write. Well, we sometimes interchange the qualification of education with the ability to read and write. For elective offices, no, there are certain questions on the qualifications of our elective officers, because the general requirement is you must only be able to read and write. Sinasabi nga, mas madali pang maging mas mahirap pa maging security guard kasi ang daming requirements than being a mayor, for example, or a president, no? Because mas maraming requirements talaga if you want to exercise certain professions. The bare minimum for elective positions is being able to read and write. That is opening public service by way of election for all, no? But there really are certain positions in government, and we all know that education, minimum education, is required. For example, being eligible for being a commissioner of the civil service COA or COMELEC requires you to be either a lawyer or a CPA in certain cases, no? Um, um, for certain positions in government, you must be a doctor, you must be a nurse, you must be, certain positions require certain degree of education, no? Political affiliation, you understand this in this context na, for example, party list. You can be a party list representative or a candidate for Congress as a party list representative only if you are politically affiliated with a party list group. No, civil service examination is the competency based examination that qualifies the public to serve, or people to serve public service. No, um, what are the grounds for disqualification for public office? Well, generally, the list is there. You have mental or physical incapability, um, misconduct or crime, impeachment, removal or suspension from office, previous tenure of office, consecutive term. Ano ang pinagkaiba? Previous tenure, like you can only be president once, di ba? Consecutive terms, you can only be the consecutive number of being a terms of being a vice president or a senator, or being district representative. Holding more than one office, the prohibition of holding of more than one office disqualifies you to hold on to several offices. Relationship with the appointing authority. I remember in the discussion of the executive department in constitutional law 1, there are certain persons who cannot be appointed by the president. No? Forbidden and incompatible office. Remember this discussion on the prohibitions for members of Congress. Being an elective official, having been a candidate for any elective position. Remember, One of the restrictions, for example, for being a commissioner of the constitutional commissioner, having been running for office at the last election, and other grounds under the local government code. No? So those are the general disqualifications. Now remember them. So in the case of Rivaldo versus Comelec, it tells us that these qualifications for public office must be continuing. It must be possessed not only at the time of the appointment or election or assumption of office, but it should be there during the entire tenure of the public servant. Otherwise, if he loses the qualification, he may be removed from office. It may be seasonably challenged, no? Yung kanyang holding on to the office. A person is elected for public office by way of election or appointment. Ang pinagkaiba lang ng elected position sa being appointed is dami, no? Una, participation in partisan politics, or perhaps yung tenure of being in office, no? Fixed term naman talaga pag elected ka, di ba? Or others, no? Ang dami, no? Who appoints you, who elects you, where your power comes from, no? So, where your mandate comes from, of course, no? So, look into this, no? Then vacancy is a requirement for being able to enter a public office. Vacancy means that the office or position is empty, and there is no legally qualified incumbent or appointed or elected official occupying the position who has lawful rights to exercise the powers and perform its duties. Yung agawan ng position kasi may nakaupo naman pala na qualified, may nakaupo naman pala na elected, di ba? There can be no appointment to an vacant position, of course. That's why it has to be empty. Okay. So, what are the causes for vacancy? Death, permanent disability, removal from office, resignation of the incumbent, other causes of vacancy as abandonment, expiration of term, conviction of a crime, impeachment conviction, acceptance of an incompatible office, creation of a new office, reaching the age limit, and recall. Okay. So, when you speak of a public officer must get his authority somewhere. He must be a person who assumes office with authority, with a right to be there. But there is such a thing we call a usurper, a de facto, and a de jure officer. No? So, what is a de facto officer? A de facto officer exercises his or her authority under a color of appointment or election, meaning it's only a semblance. It's subject to dispute. It's subject to question. There is doubt as to how he is appointed or how he is elected. So he is only de facto. No? He may be holding office, but his office has that legitimacy question. No? These are the requirements. There must be, of course, a de jure officer. There must be somebody else who supposedly should be there in the office that the de facto officer is occupying. There must be a color of right or general acquiescence by the public, meaning there must be that semblance of authority to be there. There must be actual physical possession of the office in good faith. Dapat in good faith naman. And there must be actual use or possession of the office because you are assuming control. No, it should be in good faith. Otherwise, you can be considered a usurper. Okay. So why the distinction between a de facto officer and the jure officer? Well, why in the first place should we want to know if he is a de facto officer and not a usurper or a de jure officer? Because may epekto din naman kahit na papaano yung mga acts ng de facto officer. The lawful acts, so far as the rights of third persons are concerned, are if done within the scope and by the apparent authority of the office are considered valid and binding. Because for a time, the public and third persons relied on the legitimacy of the office of the public officer holding on in good faith to that office as a de facto officer. Okay? So may kasi may color or semblance of authority. Yung legitimate acts niya are considered as valid and binding. On the other hand, we have a de jure officer who is legally appointed or elected and possesses all qualifications to the office. He is one who has the lawful right to the office in all respects, but who has either been ousted from it or who has never actually taken possession of it. So, may office sana siya, he should be there, pero somehow tinanggal from being, yung kanang kanyang pagkaluklok in the office, no? As opposed to a usurper, he has no, you know, no authority talaga to be there, not even the semblance. A usurper acts without any title or color or right to office. He takes possession of the office and undertakes to act officially without any color or right or authority, either actual or apparent. So, civil service. What is included in the term civil service? It embraces all branches, subdivisions, instrumentalities, and agencies of the government, including government-owned and controlled corporations with original charters. So, what are the positions in civil service? It could be career service or non-career service. Anong pinagkaiba? Sa career service, entrance is based on merit and fitness to be determined by as far as practicable by competitive examinations or based on highly technical qualifications. So mahirap pasukin ang career service kasi labanan siya ng who are qualified and fit because entrance is stringent. You have to undergo competitive examinations and the screening process is tedious. And there is an opportunity for advancement to a higher career position. So that guarantees you growth in the service. Growth being possible because you have all the time to be there because you enjoy security of tenure. Okay. Unlike a non-career service where the exam is based on um, other than those usual tests for merit and fitness for career service, tenure is only limited to a specified period set by law or is coterminous with the appointing authority or subject to his pleasure or which is limited to the duration of a particular project. So walang kasiguraduhang trabaho, but it's they are engaged at the desire of the appointing authority, especially for positions that need to be filled up. No? Let's go to appointments. I guess you also need to go back to the discussion on appointments under the Commission on Appointments, regular and interim appointments as well. No, but for this, we need to discuss the types of appointments in the civil service being permanent um, or provisional or whatnot or temporary. What is a permanent appointment? It shall be issued to a person who meets all the requirements to the position to which he is being appointed to, including appropriate eligibility prescribed in accordance with the provisions of the law and standards promulgated in the pursuance thereof. Okay, you have all the qualifications if you want to be a permanent appointee. And as opposed to a temporary appointee. A temporary appointment shall be issued to a person who meets all the requirements with a position to which she is being appointed except the appropriate civil service eligibility. In the absence of appropriate eligibles and it becomes necessary in the public interest to fill the vacancy, um, provided that such temporary appointment shall not exceed 12 months, but the appointee may sooner be replaced if a qualified civil service eligible has been appointed. Okay. Or has become available. Um, so temporary lang siya, no? But what if you're appointed temporarily? And then, kasi temporary kasi wala ka pa namang civil service eligibility. For example, wala kang eligibility. But while you were a temporary appointee, somehow, you become qualified. You become a civil service eligible individual, no? Does your temporary appointment automatically convert into a permanent one? No, because the essence of your appointment was temporary in the first place. That was the original intent. In the case of Maturan versus Magalona, the Supreme Court said a temporary appointment or appointee gains civil service eligibility in case while serving His temporary position does not automatically convert to a permanent one. What does he require? He requires a new appointment and not merely a reinstatement. Um, so in the case of Quadra versus Cordova, temporary appointment is defined as one made in an acting capacity, the essence of which lies in the temporary character and in the terminability at the pleasure of the appointing power. The termination of an appointment may be with or without a cause, since the appointee serves only at the pleasure of the appointing authority. So remember, cases on temporary appointments of constitutional law commissioners, which are prohibited because they will always be at the beck and call, at the whim and caprice, and at the mercy of the appointing authority, who is the president. That's why temporary appointment is not allowed in the constitutional commissions. You have a provisional appointment which may be issued upon the prior authorization of the Commissioner on Civil Service in accordance with law to a person who has not qualified in an appropriate examination but who otherwise meets the requirement for appointment to a regular position in the competitive service. Whenever a vacancy occurs and the filling thereof is necessary in the interest of the service, there is no appropriate register of eligibles at the time of appointment. So try to distinguish between a provisional, temporary, and a permanent appointee. That has already come out in the bar exam, I think. So there are exceptions to the requirement of the competitive examination. The following need not undergo competitive examination if the position is policy determining, primarily confidential, and highly technical. Promotion is the advancement of a person to a higher rank. No, a promotion is the advancement of an employee from one position to another with an increase in duties and responsibilities as authorized by law, and usually accompanied by an increase in pay or salary. Um, Promotion increases not your salary primarily. It is the increase of your responsibilities. But of course, there's an expectation usually of an increase in compensation. No, usually. Um, the next in rank person of the lower position must be considered but not automatically appointed, because there is the discretion still of the appointing authority to determine who best to qualify. But automatically, he must be considered but not automatically appointed. That's why there is the next in rank rule. Remember this one. In promotions, the appointing authority must automatically consider the employees next in rank as candidates for appointment. Employees next in rank are those who occupy the next lower positions in the occupational group under which the vacant position is classified, and in other functionally related occupational groups, and who are competent, qualified, and with the appropriate civil service eligibility. So, discipline of public servants, no? Under the following grounds: dishonesty, oppression, neglect of duty, misconduct, disgraceful and immoral conduct, being notoriously undesirable, discourtesy in the course of official duties, insufficiency and incompetence in the performance of official duties, conviction of a crime involving moral turpitude, falsification of official documents, habitual drunkenness, gambling, refusal to perform official duty, or render overtime service, physical or mental incapability or incapacity due to immoral or vicious habits, willful refusal to pay just debts, or failure to pay taxes. So, these are so far the grounds. Pero marami pa yan. Preventive suspension, if you have been disciplined, subject to disciplinary action for certain causes which may merit removal or suspension, may be preventively suspended. Preventive suspension is not yet a penalty. It may begin during investigation and may end until final determination of your case, meaning even pending appeal. No, so preventive suspension may be pending investigation or pending appeal. The case of Makuli versus Office of the President, the law, according to the Supreme Court, should abhor indefinite preventive suspension, because in the indefinite preventive suspension places the position indefinitely vacant also, and it deprives the public of the service that temporarily vacated position must perform. So indefinite preventive suspension is abhorred. Okay. The law abhors indefinite preventive suspension of public officials and employees, whether they are presidential appointees or not. For presidential appointees, a suspension should last only within a reasonable time. For non-presidential appointees, the maximum period of preventive suspension is 90 days. Once the allowable period of preventive suspension has been served, the public official and employees must be automatically reinstated. So modes of termination of official relations, you have natural causes, which includes the expiration of the term or tenure of your office, retirement, death, or a permanent disability. Acts are those coming from the act or neglect of the officer, resignation, acceptance of an incompatible office, or abandonment of office or prescription. Acts of government or the people, when you are removed removed, impeached, your office is abolished, or convicted of a crime, or your election is recalled. We'll continue with this on the next video.